My name is Michael Van Kleeck, and you're about to go on a journey with me. You're about to go on Mozilla's journey from the data center to the cloud. Just to really quickly set some initial expectations for people who are here, especially if you're here with Manish's talk beforehand on serverless. This is going to be a pretty high-level talk where there's no code in this talk. I don't think there's really any vendor icons or anything. We'll talk a little bit about, we'll mention the words Kubernetes and Deis and things like that, but we're kind of functioning at a higher level here, looking at some of the organizational issues, some of the education issues, open source, kind of the whole ball of wax that goes into Mozilla's journey from the data center to the cloud. So just want to let you know that that's where we're at. So come along with me. To start out, every time we do something with Mozilla, we like to put up our code of conduct. We're very proud of our code of conduct. I think it's consistent usage and reminder to people that we have a code of conduct, that we expect to respect one another, and that we embrace diversity, celebrate it, and want everybody to show up as their authentic selves. I think that's key to the health of Mozilla. It's the key to the health of any open source initiative, key to the health of a community. And if you'd like to reuse our code of conduct for your community or your open source effort, it's linked to here. It's in GitHub, so you're welcome to use it. Welcome to Portland, by the way. You might see in the corner here we have the, you might have heard about the Unipiper. We have the flaming Unipiper here in the, right here on the Burnside Bridge. We got a lot of diversity in Portland. One of the ways we have diversity is among bicyclists. I'm a daily bike commuter, as are so many people in tech in Portland. And so I was just wondering if anybody can tell me what the difference is between a well-dressed bicyclist and a poorly dressed unicyclist. Attire. All right, thank you. All right, so Mozilla's journey from the data center to the cloud. I'm giving you this presentation in the spirit of John Perry Barlow, who passed away earlier this year. He coined the term cyberspace. He's a founding member of the EFF, and I encourage you all to visit the EFF booth and become aware of the advocacy that EFF does, fighting for our rights, protecting our rights out on the internet. And to quote John Perry Barlow, "But groundless hope, like unconditional love, is the only kind worth having." And sometimes as we go into these technical journeys, that's all we can have is groundless hope, because we haven't seen anybody get to the other side yet. So how many of you, dear explorers, are on the journey from the data center to the cloud? Okay. How many of you have never seen a server? Okay, good. I know there's a diversity of ages and things in the crowd, and I'm wondering if we're getting to a point where no one's actually seen what a server looks like anymore because everything's in the cloud. So how many of you have never seen or interacted with a program that's totally in the cloud from a development perspective? So we're all in the cloud. We've all seen both. Great. We haven't quite bifurcated there yet. So on this journey that I'm going to take you on, Mozilla taking all our stuff from the data center to the cloud, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to learn about the players in the landscape. We're going to make a map and take that trip. And then we're going to see where we are and look to the horizon. And I want to point out here that I made the proposal for this presentation 6 months ago with an expectation we'd be in a particular place right now. We're not in that place. We are in a bunch of different places, some better than we thought we would be, some worse, but it's way different than what we thought we were going to be when we started this presentation. So my name is Michael Van Kleeck. I'm Mozilla's enterprise solutions architect. I work in Mozilla IT, solving some of our big enterprise problems, identity and access management. Right now, my big focus, obviously working on the data center migration. Right now, my major focus is on preparing the Mozilla Corporation for exploring in the future, creating an innovative mindset. As you all know, and we'll talk about Mozilla and Firefox, we do Firefox, and Firefox fuels our mission, but we don't know that Firefox can be able to fuel our mission as we go forward. We may have to find some other things as well. So my role is to try to create headspace within Mozilla and a mindset so that we can start exploring there and see, what will the future hold for us. Been in Portland for 20 years. I learned how to program professionally from O'Reilly books. So I learned how to program originally from this book, Basic Computer Games. I had this in 3rd grade. We had a computer in the classroom, typed in listings of basic code. This is how we learned programming back in 1980. I learned how to become a professional programmer after I graduated from college with an English degree, but a passion for computers, by picking up at Powell's Books right here in downtown Portland, Java in a Nutshell, version 1. And it's amazing. Look at this book now. And we can still do everything that we do in Java with Java 1.0. Yeah, there's a lot more bit twiddling that would be involved, but it was a good language. I consider myself a cartographer of the imagination. So I'm going to show you a lot of maps. It's my job as an architect, is to take you places. And I was an English major, a poet, and I'm a DJ. And so when I've been derailed a few times in my tech career, I've written poetry. And there will be some poetry in our session tonight. I'm going to break this up into 3 different places. Each of our stops is going to have some haiku. So let's learn about the players in the landscape for our migration. Who are you? Calls cloud. I am where all future is. Come, see what meets you. All right, let's see who's going on the journey. We're going to start with Mozilla. Mozilla is a mission-driven organization. Our mission is to ensure that the internet is a global public resource, open and accessible to all. An internet that truly puts people first, where individuals can shape their own experience and are empowered, safe, and independent. Everything we do at Mozilla supports that mission, whether it's Firefox, which we use to deliver the mission. It's basically the manifestation of the mission and also the tool that we use to gather the resources to go forward on the mission. In case you didn't know, we're a nonprofit. Firefox is fast for good, paying attention to what the users need, trying to give people privacy. We have 350 million users worldwide. We're on desktop, we're on mobile. Some of you may have heard about Firefox Reality coming out, so we're into new platforms. Mozilla is a lot more than Firefox. We're obviously made up of all the people that are Mozillians, which are staff, contributors, volunteers, advocates, people we call conscious choosers who are out there and say to their friends, hey, you should be using Firefox. It's good for you. It's good for the internet. And we're all trying to make the internet better. We have a bunch of things that we do to make the internet better. The Internet Health Report, we do advocacy and policy work. Net neutrality was basically the original net neutrality laws were proposed originally by people from Mozilla. So we are heavily involved in trying to protect the internet for all, and open source is our DNA. As somebody mentioned yesterday, the open source term was basically coined when Netscape's code was open source, beginning the Mozilla project. So we are open source all the way through and through, and everybody who comes to work for Mozilla knows that and is aware of that and wants to work into that in that way. It doesn't mean that everybody is ready to work in that way, because it can be shocking when you actually get into an open source company. So that's who Mozilla is. That's who's going on the journey. There's some rules of the road that we're going to have to be aware of as we go to the cloud. Some things that are set, some things that we have to consider in all aspects of this journey. First of all, as I put up in there in red, is one of the guiding things here, and one of the things to understand, Mozilla IT had declared before I got there that Mozilla IT will only support AWS. It was a foundational stake in the ground. It affects a lot of what happens on this trip. The grassroots nature of Mozilla is essential to understand. Not only are we 1,000 staff, but we are volunteers around the world, and there is no central governance, no top-down mandates, no ability to say we're going to do this and this and this. So what we have are systems that pop up everywhere. 20 years worth of that code, no tech standards, no consistent governance, and to quote Modest Mouse, we got everything. Although I still haven't found that much Java, which is kind of disappointing because I did love the Java language. We have 1,000 staff at Mozilla, which is always fun to me when I go talk to people who are not in tech, and they're like, Mozilla, you play with Microsoft and Amazon. I say, how many employees do you think we have? 5,000, 30,000, 50,000. We have 1,000, and we're playing in mixed reality, speech-to-text, browser. We do a lot. Part of the reason why I think we're so productive is because we're mission-driven, and we're all bringing our hearts to work, and it really affects, again, everything we do, because we're not just working for a dollar sign here. We're working for something we believe in. That's why we're able to play with the Titans. We consider ourselves a rebel alliance. We often use the Star Wars metaphor to talk about what we do. So that's guiding. We always are shooting for something higher than where we can be, and sometimes we take on way too much work. There's earthly factors to consider. Mozillians are worldwide. Depending on where we're in the cloud, we're going to be subject to various data privacy and jurisdictions. Much of the cloud is based in Oregon, which I think is an interesting thing in itself. And we also have to consider the next billion people online. Many of them are going to be from the global south. What are we going to do to reach out to the global south? How are we going to bring our work to like Africa or Southeast Asia? Open source is our DNA, but we need to sustain the mission. We only have 1,000 people. So we have this conflict. Public clouds mean that we have to work with Amazon and Google, but yet they're not open source. Their clouds are private. Could we create our own cloud? Yes. Would that be a good use of our resources? Maybe. Right now, we've decided it's not. And then, of course, one thing that governs all of us in this, architects will be aware of this, is Conway's Law. Conway's Law, which says that organizations which design systems are constrained to produce designs which are copies of the communication structures of these organizations. You can't get away from it. If you're building systems, your system is eventually going to reflect your organization. Now, when your organization is scattered and is what I look at as an architect is 1,000 one-story houses, your systems are going to be scattered like that. Unless you can bring those things together, build them, create some open space in that land. Put 10 of those houses vertically, and let's create a park there so we have a place to go breathe. That's kind of the metaphor here. So information services at Mozilla are split. We have an IT department that provides some. A lot of different departments do their own. Firefox has essentially its own IT department for things it does, which is Firefox Cloud Services. Even IT is split into factions. And we have one-offs galore. Every day I find out about somebody else hosting something on their own at Mozilla. So we're really spread out. Trying to get all that to the cloud, kind of crazy. So here's some of the risks and challenges as we go into our journey. We don't know our application inventory. 20 years of code, 20 years of people coming in and out, things that are stood up. Like we have an application, one of our most famous applications that we really know nothing about is our PTO application. So if you're a Mozilla staff member and you want to go on vacation, we have an old piece of PHP code out there that's barely hanging together that you put it into, and then there's kind of a manual entry process. Our phone book internally is another old PHP application. That's our directory. I'm actually involved in an effort right now where we're like, any library upgrade at this point could kill it, and anything we have to do for security could kill it. So what are we going to do in an emergency if we lose phone book? We've got a variety of applications, different levels of service. A couple important things here. Mozilla IT is all based in the US, even though Mozilla is worldwide. We have inconsistent knowledge and philosophies about how to go to the cloud and what we can do. We have some people who are software engineers, some people who are admins. It's really scattered. But there were no software developer resources available to migrate apps, at least not within IT. So it's going to be a little scary here. With those things in mind, we think about our goals for the journey of going to the cloud. Obviously, number one, empower Mozillians with easy solutions. We don't want our scientists that are researching about mixed reality to have to think about what compute resources they need. We want them to design their app and work with the people that are programming it to make sure we have something that's scalable, but we don't want them to have to obsess about AWS or Google. We need to be able to scale quickly when needed. I mean, we're subject to spike events. What if, in the ruling the other day with Google, what if Google had been ordered to not install Chrome and to put a link to other browsers? Well, the easiest thing for them to do on Android devices, the easiest thing for them to do would have been to point to Mozilla.org if that had happened, which means we're going to spike like mad, and so we have to be able to scale out there. Multi-region, of course, we're trying to be international. It's very important to be international. And significantly, is to bring in a continuous integration and delivery mindset into Mozilla. Right now, the reason we have so much code built up is somebody writes something, puts it out there, forgets about it. Somebody else writes a little more on it, puts it out there, forgets about it. We don't even know when those things go out. There aren't pull requests. So let's at least create that mindset. These are our goals. And then we have to think about how are we going to measure our progress and success. Well, that's been not considering those metrics up front, which we didn't really do a very good job of, means it's hard for us now on the road to say how far have we gone. It's like we're flying into the cloud, but with no sense of where the ground is. We're not sure how far up we are. So that's where we're trying to go. Let's make a map and take a trip. Trouble ahead, trouble behind. A golden road to limitless evolution, or what happens? First thing we have to do is start discovery and planning, figuring out what we're going to do here. I mean, this becomes a very waterfall project because we're taking things that are sitting in a server and moving them forward. We're not a company that's used to working in an agile fashion. We're a slow, consensus-driven place. So how do we find applications? Who are the service owners? What dependencies need upgrading? What's going to break? What can go cloud native? There are a few things that can go cloud native, a few things that have to go cloud native. Things like Bedrock, which is where you download the browser, that has to go cloud native. We have to be able to scale that, because we have to be able to respond to these events that might happen. We also have to be able to scale rapidly anything we do in the mixed reality space. Because, again, these are the types of things that can catch fire. We have to be able to, they can literally catch fire if your server's too hot, but they can catch fire in the market, and we need to be able to catch up and be ahead of the market. And again, the big thing for us here, big question, who can and will do the work? Who has the ability to lift these applications into the web? Who has the ability to move us into the cloud? That becomes a very tough question to answer. So we take our journey. We take our journey to the crowd. IT mandates that we have to get out of the data center by September 2018. Remember, I said there's no top-down governance at Mozilla. There's not. But when you pull the plug on a data center, whatever's running in there isn't running anymore. So IT says, we're pulling the plug on it. We're cutting our contract because the contract is ridiculous. We're not going to be on that data center anymore. It's going to take a lot of culture change for us to get there. So we're going to need to develop DevOps, which is not something that really exists at Mozilla, especially not on the operations side. The operations side is a lot of people who are administrators, but no one who's actually a developer. We have ops, but not dev. Continuous integration, a new practice for a lot of us. QA, something that, because of the sort of bootstrap nature of Mozilla, has often gone unconsidered, like testing things, making sure that there's a test suite, so if somebody comes along 3 years later and adds code to it, they don't break our PTO application and no one's getting charged for vacation. Although I like not getting charged for vacation, it's take as much time as you want, right? And finally, of course, the practice of architecture. On the operations side of Mozilla, only me and my boss have the title of architect, and my boss, through some of the way our organization works, is not actually architecting. He's been promoted into being a people manager. So we'll talk about that, but we've lost that part of architecture. So there's no architecture. There's nobody at Mozilla. When I come in October of 2016, there's no way for us to understand how to take those 1,100 houses and make some space in there, make some buildings. We're crowded to the edge with all of our tech, and we don't know what to do. So as we start going on the journey, the alliance fractures. IT is behind the times here. Other departments at Mozilla, like our marketing, engineering, and operations team, very much ahead of the time. They're out in Kubernetes. They want to see what's going to happen with serverless. They want to see how they can take advantage of the web to solve their problems. They don't want to be held back by IT. They fracture off. Emerging tech can't wait for IT to return requests. They fracture off and start putting things in Heroku because they find a volunteer who knows how to do Heroku. They throw things out there. Cost becomes a factor because, yay, we start building a cloud platform in IT, but what do you know? We don't really anticipate. It's like, oh, you're only going to use the compute you're using, right? No, you're going to use for all the compute that's actually on. That's what I thought was funny about Manish's presentation there. He said you're only using your compute when you're running it. No, you're using it when it's on, So if you're not shutting your resources down, even in the world of Lambda, things stay up and you pay for it unless you're willing to absorb that warm-up cost. So costs start spiraling. People are surprised. People in management hadn't really perceived. They're like, oh, we're just going to be paying for what we're using, right? Obviously, as you're hearing, we're having to use a lot of skills here we don't have, so we have to think about how to develop skills. And so organizationally, it doesn't start happening, but remember, Mozilla is a grassroots organization, so these interest teams start cobbling up. One thing about Mozilla is that it's all great people, so no matter what department you're working in, you might go over and talk to somebody, if you're in IT, talk to somebody in marketing, talk to somebody in Firefox, you learn that you have a common tech interest, and we start creating these interest groups and sharing information between them and sharing knowledge. And so that affects how we get things done. So we start going down this path. The Rebel Alliance is fractured. Mozilla IT develops a platform called Nubis, which is designed to abstract away most of the ephemeral nature of compute resources, to take applications that are running healthy in the data center, and we don't know anything about them, we don't know their code or anything. We create a data center layer, essentially, in AWS on top of those resources. Kind of a creative project, kind of ambitious, but you see what happens there? That allows an application like Phonebook or like PTO that we can't actually maintain to go into the cloud. We still can't maintain it. We still don't know anything about it. We still don't have the ability to write the PHP code, but we're able to lift and shift this application that's not working into the cloud without thinking about some of those bigger concerns. In other words, we're able to take all of our tech debt with us and actually add some to it by going through the IT platform. The IT platform is built by 3 people. It's a tiny team. They started it 3 years ago. Think about the development that's happened in AWS features versus what 3 people would have been able to do trying to wrap all that up for better consumption. So we get this huge split between where AWS is and what we're able to serve. Other Mozilla teams don't trust the platform, don't trust IT. There's a combination of technology and personality reasons there. And so they fracture off. And other Mozilla teams work a little more like we're used to Mozilla working. They're working out in the open. They're leveraging open source communities like Kubernetes. That's why they chose to go to Kubernetes on Mozilla, is because we saw that there was a community out there that we could contribute to and participate in and learn from. We could multiply our efforts by being a part of that community. That's what open source is all about. That's Mozilla's DNA. They have more success. They have docs. They get data on their systems. We actually see where the accounts are, something that we have trouble with in Mozilla IT with some of our systems, even monitoring what's out, how our usage is. They're able to experiment. They say, all right, we're going to go try multi-cloud. We're going to try these different systems to see if we can distribute costs and save money. But it also leads to fragmentation. Everybody's out there doing something different, and you have these little interest groups that are each doing their own technology. So we get into the cloud in a couple different ways, but what we're left with is a rainbow of solutions at Mozilla. We've gone into the cloud, and by the way, did I mention back there, we decided we needed a data center anyways. There's a few things that we felt like we had to have bare metal for. A lot of those things are pretty industrial strength functions, like compiling the browser, running a thing called task cluster that we do that does these really intense processing jobs. If you've ever tried to compile Firefox on your own, you know it probably takes like 18 hours on your own desktop at this point. We haven't done a very good job on the Firefox side of keeping up with the community, of giving you ways to compile faster, but we have built some stuff to do it with internally, task cluster and things like that. But as a result of all this fragmentation, we have this rainbow of solutions at Mozilla. We've got everything. We've still got everything. We've got everything we had before and more now. So we add to all these stack that we weren't able to support with things that we have mixed support for now, whether it's AWS, Google Cloud. We get a little Google Cloud from the multi-cloud operations we're doing. Obviously Docker, that's kind of a baseline for us. Is kind of the easiest thing with these apps is to put them in a Docker container. Nubis supports Windows VMs, Docker and Linux VMs that have gotten into the cloud with them. And the thing with Nubis is even though very few other teams at Mozilla supported it, one very high-profile team did use Nubis, got to the cloud on it, is incredibly happy with it. And that's our Common Voice project, which is out there around the world where people can record voice samples in their own language. We have a bunch of languages we're supporting, trying to create an open base of voice samples for people who are doing voice projects. So Common Voice was successful on Nubis, giving it a way that it's always going to be a part of our stack until we migrate away from it, even though no one else is really able to use it successfully. We have some Heroku, like I mentioned, and we have all these different teams and projects at Mozilla that each have their own flavor of cloud. So now, Moz Meow is Moz Marketing, Engineering, and Operations. They host our Mozilla.org. MDN. How many of you have used MDN? Yes, MDN is our crown jewel outside of the browser. I feel like the browser is the big crown jewel and the MDN's right under it. We have 10 million users a month on MDN. It's the docs for the web. Microsoft made an agreement with us late last year where they're pointing all web documentation to MDN. It's community supported. We're translated into, I don't even know how many languages. We have an effort right now to figure out if we have some languages that we can actually turn off because nobody actually speaks them or nobody actually codes in them. But there's so many opportunities. One thing that was happening with MDN, one of my favorite stories with MDN, is one of our most active volunteer contributors is a teenager from Bangladesh. And I asked a friend of mine who was Bangladeshi, like, what's going on? Bangladesh put a space shuttle up. Bangladesh is out there and they're on MDN translating this. And he's like, Bangladesh, the people are starting to eat, but now they're hungry. They're hungry to be a part of the world. And MDN's one way they're being a part of that world. So I'm really proud of what we're doing with MDN. Look forward to stretching that out. But here's the world we're in now. We've got all of this now, and we're not here yet. There's still so much going out of the data center. The data center doesn't close till September 2018. So we see where we are, and we look to the horizon. Look back in curiosity. Ahead, net for you and me, full of hope and grace, but afraid we may lay our home to waste. That's a quote from John Perry Barlow, a lyric from a Grateful Dead song, Throwing Stones. We've learned some lessons from where we're at right now. Open is our DNA, and when we're not working in the open, we get sick. The Nubis project, they open sourced the code. They put it in GitHub and made it available for people to contribute, and you could do a PR. That's it. They put some initial docs out there. They didn't maintain them. No community ever formed around Nubis, so it wasn't really open. Just putting your code out there in GitHub does not define an open project. We were never able to leverage that, and in fact, there became some resentment because it seemed closed, and the more you dived into it, the less you knew about it, so it created a schism in our culture. When we're not being open, truly open, we as Mozilla get sick. Open is our DNA. It's what we're made of. DevOps is both development and operations. All we have is operations on our team, so we're not able to do DevOps yet. Saving in the cloud requires measurement and automation. If you're actually going to save money in the cloud, it's not just a matter of turning things on out there. You have to see what's running, shut things down, turn things on to manage your scale. You can't just put it in the cloud and save money. You're going to spend a lot more money that way really fast. Good DevOps limits tech proliferation. If people are working together, you have DevOps embedded in your teams early on, and you're talking about technology choices, the DevOps engineers can work with the scientists and researchers and programmers to make sure that we don't further fragment tech and make something that's be difficult for us to support down the line. Nobody enjoys doing lift and shift migrations. It's crap work. It is the crap work of IT. But guess what? Migrations are ongoing eternally. If we're not migrating constantly, if we in IT are not constantly getting that next technology ready for our researchers to consume, for our users to consume, if we're not doing that, we're not doing our job. We're not enabling the business. So you're constantly migrating. You're constantly moving code. You're constantly moving data. You have to shave data because you get government regulations. The moves are constant. There's never a sense that an IT migration, you get to the South Pole and get to hang out for 6 months. No, you're constantly on the move, and that's something we just have to accept in our role. Most important thing we learn, people are everything. Everything. People are the single most important technology to anything you do. We learn this so much in the communications and the break of communications that have led to the fragmentation in our systems. Open source requires openness and collaboration. You have to be able to talk to one another. You have to be able to respect one another. You have to be able to adhere to a code of conduct. Healthy teams take risks. Every healthy team is a learning and teaching team. Someone's learning on there, someone's teaching, no one's afraid to ask questions. And toxic behavior is contagious and cancerous. You can't just let it go. You can't just sit there when somebody yells at somebody who knows less in a meeting. You can't just sit there when somebody takes 3 days to answer a question because they're trying to establish their sense of power. Toxic behavior is contagious and cancerous and needs to be addressed early. And having a pre-understood code of conduct goes a long way towards keeping toxic behavior from manifesting. And some advice for those of you who are job seekers, workers, managers, where probably all of us are some combination of that. Hire people that stretch you and empower them. Don't just hire to a job description. Hire people who are going to help make you more diverse, who are going to take you further out into the world. Work for leaders who will advocate for you. When you're out there looking for a job, make sure that person that you're going to be working for will be your number one advocate, your big supporter. That's how we push forward. And look for openness, collaboration, and spirit when you're trying to be open. If we do these things, we can solve so many of the problems that we deal with what's happened with our migrations to date. So, here we are with this mess, this rainbow of technologies, but you know what I gotta say? The future's so bright. The future's so bright, I gotta wear shades, I tell you. There's a bunch of things that we can do now going forward to improve our situation and to help us get ready for innovation. First of all, we have to cut down the inventory. We lifted all this stuff to the web, 200 applications, so many that are poorly understood. We've gotta cut down the inventory. We gotta take that load off of our backs. We made that load bigger. We gotta shrink it down. We gotta focus on relationships and careers. These lift and shift projects, the starts and stops, there wasn't a lot of learning there. There wasn't a lot of challenge. People were doing a lot of grunt work, a lot of the things that they've always been doing, and they're concerned. Like, I'm lifting and shifting this 15-year-old architecture. How am I personally developing? What's my career going to look like in 5 years if all I can say is I migrated PHP applications we didn't know about? We have to help people with their careers. Will we be able to reduce the number of clouds we have? Maybe, if we get people communicating. We have to find those operational efficiencies everybody's promised us in the cloud. MDN. There's so much we can do with MDN. It's reaching out to all corners of the world. Our emerging tech team, they need agility and power to help us find what's going to happen next, help us build that. We need to create a true DevOps team. We have to keep asking ourselves in Mozilla IT, are we open yet? Are we open yet? Are we open? Are we acting like an open organization? And when we're open enough, are we going to be able to innovate like DJs? DJs take things that are out there, they take records that are out there, they put them together, they remix them. The last slide is kind of an appendix out here, but you'll see it when you download the slides. If you download the slides from the website, is actually driving a presentation I'll be giving at the O'Reilly Software Architecture Conference in London in October, which is about an innovation process. And that innovation process is fueled by the technology choices we make. So that's where we're at now. Are we open yet? The future's bright. We got to keep opening. And I'd like to invite you to help make the web be more open, help us with our mission. One great way is to be a part of MDN. Read it, contribute to it, share it. I talk to people in Portland all the time who see me in my Firefox shirt or see me in a Mozilla shirt, and they're like, I just found MDN. I'm learning how to code the web. Great. It really is reaching people. Teachers are asking people to do it. So be a part of that. And come join our ride. We are always hiring people. We're always hiring people who are open and collaborative. There's my contact information again. Just as a quick preview, I'm going to show the Innovate Like a DJ slide because this is where we're going. And I can just kind of bounce in here real quick. This is one of the lightning talks I gave at our All Hands in San Francisco. And I won't walk you through it all right now. It's out there online. But this is the process that we're trying to follow, where we can take our capabilities, remix them, cut them up. Cloud technology enables that. So yeah, so that's where we're at. Thank you very much for coming on this journey with me. I want to open this up to any questions you might have. Thank you. Yes?
You said that you want to create a true DevOps team. What's your approach to make it real?
So what I'm hoping to do is hire a couple people. I'm hoping we can build a team where we can bring in some leaders who have been there, who have that knowledge to bring to our staff. That is, our ops staff is primarily very junior, and they're curious, and they want to learn more of the development parts. And they don't have to be rockstar developers, but they need to understand a little more about the code and the code process, and we need to be able to create that culture internally. So I'm hoping to hire people who can mentor that. I'm hoping to change our teams around a little bit and change the way we approach hiring so we can build that. That's not happening right now. And like I said, I was hoping we were going to be there by now, have that team building, but because we continue to hire for functions to try to get into the cloud, we don't have that happening yet. But it starts with mentoring and with, again, partnering with other teams in Mozilla that are doing it. We're doing true DevOps. We have a site reliability SRE team, a site reliability engineering team that has been working with Moz Meow. So we have some true DevOps, if you will, in place in Moz Meow. And so we'd like to build from that and communicate with them as well and learn from what they've done.
So your cloud approach, you mentioned hybrid, right? Since you had to compile Mozilla.
Yep.
So that was one basis for hybrid strategy. But are you looking at a cross-cloud approach or a single cloud?
So Mozilla IT has, until just recently, been very strict because the knowledge that our management had was just in AWS. It was very strict. The IT-supported stuff would just be in AWS. But we've hired a new cloud engineering manager in the last couple months, and we've opened up to doing multi-cloud within IT. Mozilla as a whole does have multi-cloud. The marketing, engineering, and operations team, again, is split. They've got some dynamic scripts that are allocating things between Google and Amazon. So we have a hybrid cloud there. Again, as I mentioned, we've talked at a high level of doing our own, but we just don't have the capability to put that together. But we're going to have a data center, and we're going to be freeing up resources in that data center over time. So that's something that's more philosophically in line with who we are, would be to use open source platforms to build our own cloud, and would get us away from, we all want to be so pure in our support of the mission. And Mozilla, of course, is advocating against, domination of the internet by the big Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple, the big companies that dominate the internet. We argue against that, but yet at the same time, most of our money comes from Google, and we're using Amazon and Google to support us. So we're in this constant sort of conundrum. So that's right now single cloud in IT. There is some multi-cloud, and Firefox Cloud Services is more and more multi-cloud. Yeah.
The DevOps team actually ran a DevOps team, and in the end, we found it was really not a team so much as a culture.
Yes.
DevOps culture, which is to infuse across. And so I only see a DevOps team causing that evolution, the DevOps culture, to bring people, and it's pretty prolific. So I saw that.
Yeah, I appreciate you catching me on that. It's true. We want to build a DevOps culture. All the people who are doing this work, we want them to, whatever your range is from development to straight up administration, we want you to understand the principles of DevOps, of being responsible for what you put out there, for constantly committing, constantly integrating, constantly testing, and constantly monitoring what you're doing. So it's not just putting a couple people in the room and turning them into DevOps engineers, which I was thinking about a few people in particular, but it is really about making that culture pervasive. And we have this monthly DevOps cohort that meets at Mozilla. It's grabbed people from all the different organizations. This is the biggest of those interest teams I'm talking about. And that is pervading a cultural shift. Every month, more and more people are coming to that table. So we have kind of the pioneers of DevOps culture, and more people are coming into that room. So it's really helping us grow.
Have you had the bandwidth to take any of the applications that you lift and shifted as they were and actually refactor them to be more efficient in cloud?
No. Sadly, as an architect, refactoring is my favorite word, and we have not had, well, I take that back. We in IT haven't had the chance to do that, but MDN, for example, they've had to refactor a couple of their content production tools to get into the cloud, and they have found the bandwidth and the engineering to do that. But that's MDN. That's outside of IT. It's another team that's been able to do that. So there are places, obviously we refactored. They lift and shifted the MDM platform and then refactored it. Bedrock wasn't lifted and shifted. They completely redid Bedrock to go into the cloud.
I just want to say that the cloud services team also does a lot of refactoring to get things into the cloud at Mozilla.
Absolutely, and we don't spend enough time. That's one of the big problems we have is that IT and cloud services are like that. And we need to bring that back together. That's an ancient schism that is one of the reasons why we have divided teams. There's an ancient schism that led to the creation of these two different teams, and members of those teams are coming together again at the grassroots level, but we don't have management and leadership committing to bringing these teams back together and getting them working together. But we're all people who love Mozilla, love the mission, and we all want to work together. So we have to fix that. Yes, cloud services is doing wonderful stuff, and we need to learn more from them.
You mentioned that you need to cut down the inventory. How do you see that happening? Like I know our number of legacy apps that can be very difficult to find time to rewrite or find a way to justify getting rid of.
Well, so security, we have step one of cleaning out things is when security finds something that's a hole and nobody will fix, we shut that off. So getting security to be active about finding those things, that's one way we cut down. Beyond that, we just simply don't have the people to support a lot of these things. So things that we understand what they're doing and who they're using them, we need to find business solutions to those same problems. Like find another system that can do the same thing. The PTO system we have, can't we use Workday? We have Workday internally. Can't we use Workday to replace that PTO system? It doesn't do the same things, but can't we modify our process to do that? That's the type of thing. And then knowing what's being used will help us know which systems we can kind of pull the plug on and see if somebody screams. And being open source, we can offer the code and the maintenance of these things to the community, possibly even create some money behind it or a small cloud or account in AWS where they can run those things. But we can open those things up and say, hey, we can't support these anymore. We have to turn them off and take them out of our infrastructure because we can't run these things anymore. We're going to have to help people find different and more common solutions. I mean, some of these solutions popped up when Mozilla was 100, 200, 300 people. They've popped up. We've had multiple things doing the same things. We just have to understand how people are actually using systems, what they rely on, what their use cases are, and then apply the best case that we have available to fix their business problem.
Anyone else? We might have one more. We have about a minute and a half.
So you mentioned Kubernetes.
Yes.
Were you able to target Kubernetes and replatform, and was it a success?
Kubernetes has been a huge success for Bedrock, and I think it's been a huge success for MDN. IT has just started. We just put our first, actually I think it's MDN that IT is putting that we're taking the marketing Kubernetes platform and launching that into IT stack. So IT has just gotten to Kubernetes. But because Moz Meow was already there and we have the experience from a couple of very open and teaching-focused engineers, we've been able to learn from them about how to re-platform things onto Kubernetes, how to go live with Kubernetes with the MDN stuff.
One last question.
Yes.
Since you moved to Amazon, did you see a reduction of your operation costs, or?
No, we have not. In fact, we saw a spike in costs on the IT side. Other teams have seen a reduction in cost relative to the service they're requesting, but relative to just actual cash, we haven't seen a cut in cost yet. We actually had a big spike because when we first did that Nubis platform, there were all sorts of unnecessary services launched for every application that went live on Nubis. So we had this huge spike. We addressed that and attacked that, but we still haven't seen noticeable savings. The other thing is Mozilla has not been, this is hard for people who are in traditional corporate IT. In corporate IT, you always know your budget. You're always aware of your budget. You're always reminded of your budget. Somehow in Mozilla IT, in a leadership role in 2 years, I've really never seen a budget. So that's changing. It has to change because a lot has changed about our business model. But there was just a lot where we're not even tracking who's spending things. And people were able to, teams that do track their budget, like marketing, for example, that does a good job of adhering to a budget, know that if they can throw something at IT, then it ends up on IT's budget and not on theirs. So that's another reason why we may not be saving money, because people are throwing things at IT. We haven't done a great job at tracking our spend.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you all.